Greetings, friend. I will give you the 9 best times where you should switch Sudoku strategies. Number 7 will reduce your solve time the most. Click below if you want to give it a go. And with that, it's solving time. First thing you want to notice is you have this 4 cutting across and this 4 coming down. And so there's only 2 possibilities for 4 here in block 6. And so this is called a pointing pair. Since the block 6 has to have a 4 in it somewhere, and it's restricted to column 8. A 4 cannot be anywhere else along this column. So you cannot have a 4 in these cells. And then you see this 4 cutting across and this 4. There's only one place for a 4 in block 9, and we can solve that right away. All right, after solving that 4 there, with these 2 4s and this 4, you can solve for a 4 in block 8. And with these 2 4s and this 4, you can solve for a 4 here. So right now we're doing is called cross-hatching, or we're just looking for hidden singles. This is the fastest strategy that you can use to solve cells, but there may be a time to switch, and I'm about to show you. With these 2 4s and this 4, we can solve for a 4 here. And so now you have these 2 4s and these 2 possibilities for 4 in those blocks. Okay, now what we can notice is you have these 2 6s, and this 6 we can solve for a 6 here. And this brings us up to our first time that we want to consider switching strategies. And it's when you notice a clump of solved cells. Okay, so look right here. I noticed after I solved this that there's a lot of digits across the row and up this column, right? This column contains 5 digits, 1, 2, 4, 5, and 8. You also have a 6 in the block, and you have a 9 and a 3 here in the row. When you have that many candidates, in this case 8, that all look at this cell, we know we can solve it. That's a naked single 7, and so we can solve that naked single. So that's the first time you want to consider changing strategies. And it pops in the second time, which is right after you solve a cell. Now that we solve the cell, I don't want to continue looking for naked singles because I see this 7 right here, and I know I can go right back to cross-hatching and solve for 7 right there. And then come all the way down, and with this 7, solve for 7 here in block 8. All right, and then with these 2 7s and this 7, I can solve for 7 in block 7. I cover hidden singles in my free Sudoku solving guide that you can download from the pinned comment below. Now we need to switch over to naked singles, and we can look again in this cell. You might notice you have 4 candidates in block 7, and you have 4 candidates cutting across there. All right, you know, the 9 and the 1 are not within the block. You have a 5 and a 2 here, puts all these restrictions on this cell, and so this is going to be a naked single 6. Okay, after doing that, this is going to bring us up to our third time you want to consider changing strategies. And it's when you've created an opportunity for a faster strategy. So if you look up in block 1, we have a 2, 3, 4, 7. Now I could go, all right, maybe I can find a naked single here and plop in a 1, a 5, a 6, an 8, and a 9, and then start eliminating cells. Okay, I can eliminate a 1 and a 6 there, and the 8. You know, I can do the 6s here. And you see how kind of slow this is. Okay, I can get rid of that 5 right there, and the 9, and get rid of the 9 here. This is really, really slow, because once you eliminate the 6 from right here, what you might notice is only one place for a 6 here in block 1, and it's this cell right there. If we didn't go that method, you can go right here, and we can just empty out all those cells. Instead, you go, okay, I solved this 6 right here. I see these 2 6s that I remember from before. There's only one place for a 6. So that hidden single will be right away. So that'd be a good time to switch to a different strategy. And now that we got that 6 up there, you can look at these 2 6s and this 6 and solve for a 6 right here. And then with this 6, we can solve for a 6 here. With these 2 6s and these 2 6s, we can solve for a 6 right there. Yeah, we're going to get up to our fourth time that we want to switch strategies. And that's when you get stuck. If you look here, you're like, oh, I can't really see anything I need to solve. This is very interesting. I go and I see the 8 cutting across here, and I see this 8 coming down. And so there's two possibilities for an 8 in this cell. And they form a pointing pair, like I showed you before. Well, you also have this similar situation here. You got the 8 here and the 8 here, and they also form a pointing pair. You may not be able to see that right away because we were looking for those hidden singles, but pointing pairs, they're really an extension of looking for hidden singles and cross-hatching. But with this pointing pair here, and with this 8 and this 8, we can actually solve for an 8 right there. And then with that 8, we can solve for an 8 here. And with these two 8s and this 8, we can solve for an 8 here. And this is kind of the cool part, because this pointing pair of 8s here, with this 8 and these two 8s, you can solve for an 8 right there. And so that's a way to prevent us from getting stuck, is by kind of switching over and looking for the pointing pair instead of just for those single candidates. Now let's just kind of focus up right here, because this is going to be our 5th time you want to consider switching strategies. And it's when you think you see the extension of an intended solve path. So after I solve this 8 here, I notice, we have 5 candidates now in column 6. We have a 1, 4, 6, 8, 9. We need a 2, 3, 5, 7. And so since we have a 2 here and a 3 and a 5 in the row, this has to be a 7. And this is going to help us tremendously. Since there was 2 possibilities for 7 there, we got one of those, we were able to solve for one of those cells and create more restrictions in this area. And this is going to bring us up now to the 6th time that we want to consider switching strategies. And it's when your scanning picks up an opportunity. So as I looked here, I saw a 9 there and I saw a 9 here. I quickly noticed, hey, we can put a 9 right there in block 5. Like and subscribe now if you want to solve Sudoku quicker. Let's go up here to block 1. We got 3 missing cells. This is going to bring us up to our 7th time you want to consider changing strategies. And it's when you see the opportunity to complete a Sudoku house. So you have this 9 cutting across here, so we can solve for a 9 right there. And now there's only 2 possibilities left, a 1 and a 5. Well, I see my 5 right here, so I'm going to switch and solve and finish this block. So I'm going to put the 5 there and the 1 there. And then I notice that I only have 1 possibility left here in the row, so I can solve that for a 2. And I got 3 and a 5 remaining up here. I see this 3 here, so that's the 5. And here is the, wait for it, 3 in the corner. Outstanding. And now we can look down here and see the 2 and the 9. I got a 2 here, so that's a 2, that's a 9. And then we're looking for 3 and a 5 here. I got my 5 here, so there's a 5 and there's a 3. And I say this is what's going to reduce your solve time the most, because now we have 3 whole blocks that we don't have to look at anymore. We don't have to look at the top third of this puzzle because we solved all that. It's called clumping when you solve in the clumps like we just did. And now this leads us into the 8th time you want to consider changing strategies. And it's when you're going to reduce the cells you have to consider. And so we could look down here and go, okay, if I'm going to figure out what's in this column, I can look at all 8 of those cells and go, okay, I'm missing a 1, and we solve for 1. That's a lot to look at. And I don't want to necessarily look and try to figure out what all 3 of these cells have to be. Instead, if I know, okay, I got a 2 here, a 2 here, and a 2 here, I'm looking at 3 cells, and I can solve for 2 right there. And then with these 2s and this 2, I'm only considering 3 cells, 3 candidates, and I can solve for 2 right there very quickly. And now the same thing will work with the 3. You got the 3 right here. I know a 3 can't be in this cell, it's got to be right there. And then considering these 3 cells, I'm only looking at those to figure out what goes right here. I don't have to look at all 8 of these in order to figure out what this cell is. I've looked at this 3, and this 3. And I know that's got to be a 3. And then I can start finishing the 3s because I know we've solved quite a bit. With these 2 3s, that's got to be a 3, which allows me to solve for 3 right there. And now if we come down here, we know we can solve this for an 8. And this is going to bring us up now to our last time to consider switching strategies. And when it's going to reduce your marking. All right, so you see these 2 8s. We know we can solve this cell now for an 8. And if I go up here, I could mark that and go, all right, I'm missing 2 cells. It's got to be a 1 and it's got to be a 5. And then I could eliminate 1 by looking outside the block. Or I could go up here and go, I'm missing a 1. That's got to be my 1. And then that's got to be the 5. That's going to be a lot quicker. And the same thing here. I see this 1. Knowing a 1 can't be there, I can solve this cell now for a 1. And that's much quicker than me looking at all of these cells or marking all 3 of those cells to figure out which one is missing there. So I'm going to try to avoid marking cells if I don't have to. And so I know I just did the 1 there. And so I can cut across and go, what am I missing here? Well, I got my 5. So that's got to be the 5. And that's got to be a 9. All right. I don't see a 1 in column 8. I see a 1 here. So that's got to be a 1, which is going to put a 1 right there. Now, if you cut across and go, okay, I can see a 2 right there. That's going to help us out. And with this 2 and this 2, I'm going back to that cross-hatching to finish the rest of this puzzle. If we go here, I know that only thing missing is a 9, which is going to put a 9 here. Then I'll mark it up with that 9, this 9, to solve for a 9 right there. Then I want to pick another candidate that I can start solving with here. And so you want to look within a block because that's easier on the eyes. I don't see a 7, so here's my 7, and I'm going to cut across and go, okay, there's a missing 7. And then I'll look and see that there's a 4 here. But that 4 means this cell has to be a 4. And then we have one last digit. It's got to be our 5. If you want to challenge yourself, learn advanced solving tips with this video. If you found some value in what I just covered, buy me a coffee. I'd really appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching.